And so once they are complete with all their suit donning activities, seated in the suits, then they'll be ready to work with SpaceX to do a pressure check on those IVA, because you do really want to be very controlled as you're approaching the space station. There are a couple of maneuvers, though, if Dragon were to detect something, or if the ground teams, or if the crew were to detect something, where they could do what's called
for CHOP, that stands for the crew hands-off point. And this is literally just the point where the crew will not be sending any commands to the vehicle. It's all over to Dragon if any aborts need to be called, just due to the latency with the flight computer responding to crew actions at that point.
For pilot.
Okay, we're donning our gloves at this time.
We copy.
A second from the left, and in front of them are those 3 displays and the button panel that we got a chance to see earlier. We were also talking a little bit about 14.7 PSI. I know you and I both have engineering views of planet Earth behind us.
But obviously that just depends on how all of the additional maneuvers go. But Dragon so far moving ahead of schedule in its...
There's a good view of the space station. Pretty cool. You can actually you can see the solar panels and actually the thermal radiators there. Here's a great view from a camera behind.
And so real quick, what they're referring to there, in about 2.5 minutes, we'll be at waypoint 1, so about 220 meters out. So right where Dragon's going to be headed following the completion of this manual piloting test.
Yeah, and the thrusters that we're using here.
Dragon, on the big loop, we are commencing with docking access capture.
Very cool.
Flight a little bit later this year. So going through the paces right now, looking at our data, I think I made the same.
SpaceX Dragon on the big loop for the handling qualities. It flew just about like the sim, so my congratulations to the folks in Hawthorne. That flew really well.
To test this out and sim it and give their feedback, and pretty cool to hear that their sim experience.
That hold point in just about 4 minutes, moving at our current pace.
I think you can see a meatball and American flag on that on the spacecraft.
Commanded by a person at the Cronus console in Mission Control Houston, and they send some very basic function commands to the camera, which it then executes automatically. And so they're continuing to follow Dragon in. So we do thank them for their diligence to give us these views of this historic moment, as we are just less than 30 meters away from docking.
Right above the NASA meatball logo, you can see 3 of the service section Draco thrusters.
That's right, 12 in all. So the 4 of those clusters spread around the vehicle, used for a lot of the attitude control and any small translational maneuvers like we just watched Bob and Doug execute with their second manual flight test.
Yeah, and actually oriented in a way, too, where if you were to lose some of those thrusters, you still have redundancy and control in those axes. That's part of the reason why they're sort of at the angles that they are.
All right, so we should be getting to waypoint 2 right now. So it looks like we do have that hold.
SpaceX on Big Loop. The ground is go for approach 2. We will be enabling the resume shortly. As a reminder, ensure your visors are closed prior to Dragon's departure from the waypoint. And once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted. And for your awareness, we have sunset in a little less than 8.5 minutes.
Dragon copies all on the big loop. Go for docking.
So Doug on...
In about 3 minutes or so, right before we get that final docking, it comes about 20.
Docking adapter. You can see where the forward hatch is, and right in the middle of that there's a window and there's a centerline camera that is aligned with the port. Again, the forward docking port on PMA2, or the pressurized mating adapter.
And we are just 5 meters away. Again, we're racing that sunset. This Dragon continues to close, 4 meters to go.
Those shadows of the space station on the vehicle. Yeah, you can actually see the centerline camera pretty clearly there, sort of with the contrast of the sun right now.
3 meters to go. Two meters. We are inside the hands-off point, the chop, the crew hands-off point. 1 meter to go. Soft capture complete.
Dragon and SpaceX. Soft capture confirmed. Stand by for retraction and docking.
And we just heard it, soft capture. We have docking, that coming at 7:16 a.m. Pacific time, with the station and Dragon flying 262 statute miles right over the border between northern China and Mongolia.
Those are what will really create that pressure-tight seal between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station.
To forward hatch. Again, he opened it a little bit earlier today to allow some of the station air to mix into the pressurized mating adapter. There it is. Now again, there's a few more hatches to open until we are able to welcome Bob and Doug aboard the International Space Station. You're looking through the hatch in really at this point just waiting for good leak checks between station and Dragon. Again, it's been a process to get to this point. In the foreground there, Chris Cassidy continuing the prep work for opening up the hatch there. Again, the pressurized mating adapter hatch you see there in the foreground is open. The APAS hatch to the international docking adapter is open. Just one more, and that's the hatch of Dragon, the Crew Dragon vehicle.
The International Space Station, please come aboard.
Never copies. With pleasure. We'll be there in a second.
We have Bob Behnken from SpaceX Demo 2 mission entering the International Space Station. Followed by Doug Hurley.